All right, we're here, Nova Lab Studios in downtown LA. I'm with Ani Agassi. Ani, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Do people ask you if you're related or know Andre Agassi?
All the time, especially when I'm in a line to get into somewhere. The security always asks. So I
Really?
go like, yeah, he's my uncle. So that always helps.
Yeah, I didn't know he was Armenian.
He's Persian
Part,
Armenian.
part,
Persian
yeah.
Armenian, yeah.
When I first found out, I was like, but there's no IAN, there's no, because I was
Yeah.
younger, so I was very surprised when I found
Right.
out. And then when I saw your name, I'm like, she wouldn't be related to him.
I
would
mean, the
she?
reason why Agassi is such an Armenian name for me is because my grandpa's name is Agassi.
Okay.
And my original last name was Minasian. And I took my grandpa's first name as my last name. So
Interesting,
that's where
okay.
Agassi came from.
Okay.
So Agassi, that's the Armenian way
Yeah.
of pronouncing
Yeah.
it.
Interesting. Good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Okay, Ani, so go ahead, give me your background. You're a visual artist now. Is that the correct
Right.
way to
Yes, I
describe
am.
what you
Yes,
do?
I am.
Okay.
So basically, I've been super artistic ever since I remember myself. I would draw and paint. I was in the art club back home. I graduated school in Armenia.
Mhm.
So I was always in the arts section at school. And then I moved here to LA in 2008.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, obviously, I didn't see myself painting for a living. I was like, what is it that I can do that has art in it, but also can make me a living? So I do research. At a time, I was obsessed with Photoshop. So I was like, what's one thing you can do to make money that you can use Photoshop and art? And then boom, I discovered graphic design. I was like, okay, graphic design it is. And then I started researching schools that I found Woodbury University in Burbank. So I graduated from Woodbury with a graphic design degree, had several jobs doing graphics. And then 2 years ago, I decided I want to pick up a camera and do some photography. So with photography, I enjoyed it a lot. And then one of my shoots, the model, she's a dancer. She used to dance for Usher, Katy Perry. She was very, very super artistic and talented. My camera loved her. She was like, hey, can you like do some cool videos? I'll send it to my editor. He'll make something fun. I was like, cool, and I never done videos before. So I take some clips, I go home, I'm looking at them, I start liking something about what I did. I was like, let me try to edit myself. I edit, I make a fun like 1 minute Instagram video, and it looked like a music video. I was like, maybe I should try experimenting with this. And then boom, today I finished my first official music video.
Today?
Today.
Good
I
timing.
finished and I came to this. So it's going to be released on the 5th. It's for an Armenian singer. Her name is Lilu. I don't know if you guys know her, but it's going to be out on the 5th for her birthday. So
Nice, congratulations.
thank you.
First song completed. That's a big milestone.
It is. It's been stressful, but I hope, pays off.
How long did you work on that?
So we shot the video a little over a month ago.
Mhm.
And then the whole editing took about a month. And then a couple days for color correcting, blah, blah. And then, yeah, usually like a month and a half is the average process.
How long is the video?
The video is not too long. It's 2 minutes, about 40 seconds. It's a short song.
Okay, so it was about 2:40 final product.
Mhm.
How did it take like 1 day to record everything? Like when you guys were doing it?
It took about 8 to 10 hours to finish the shoot. It's one location. It's very simple, nothing too complicated, no special effects, nothing like that. But the editing, because I love showing a lot, I don't leave one scene for too long. I like cutting, changing scenes. So that process takes time. The transitions, all of those details take so much time. The editing.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, because I sometimes wonder this when if I watch a music video or something, I wonder like how long did it take them to do this, and are they actually singing when they're doing it? So like
they do. So the way we shot this video, she wanted her singing to look slow motion. So when you look at the video, she's slow motion, yet her lips are matching with the song. So the way to do it, what you do, you make the song twice as faster than it is.
Okay.
So while I was shooting slow motion, she was singing super fast. So when
interesting.
you bring the speed to normal, it matches. So it's like this process, like science.
yeah, no, that's completely above my goes above my head, but it's still
and then
cool
you
to
play
hear.
the song, she sings it, or he sings it, and then when you start editing, you just naturally know how to match it. Obviously, you hear the song, you see the lips, you know where to align it.
And did you say how you met this girl? Did you already know her?
She was just a friend.
Oh,
I met
okay.
through a friend of a friend of a friend, and then boom, one day she was like, "Hey, what if?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
So, and this is coming. What's today? So is this like in a weekish?
Yeah.
Something like that, right? It's 29th.
29th.
Yeah, so that's
29th.
about
Monday 29th.
okay, cool. Well, at the end we'll like get all your socials and stuff, so we'll make sure to
Okay.
put that out to the
Cool.
thing.
Cool.
So I'm curious. You came in '08 here.
Oh, 08. I was 16.
You were 16 when you came
Yeah.
here, and so 16 is so like halfway through high school.
Pretty much done with high school.
Pretty
Because
much
in
done with high
Armenia,
school.
schools are overall, used to be, overall 10 years. It's
Okay.
not like preschool, middle school, and high school.
Uh-huh.
You just go to school, and 10 years, you're with the same people, unless you decide to switch a school.
Mhm.
So I graduated my 10th grade. And then a couple years after my graduation, they have a 12-year program too. But in my time, it was 10 years. So I graduate at 16. I move here. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I go to high school? Do I go to college? I was pretty confused for a good year and depressed because, such a major shift of reality. This lifestyle, this people, you speak this language, boom, all of a sudden everything is completely different. And then I was pretty patient for a year, and then I went to community college. I went to the Valley College. I completed all my GEs. 2 years later, I transferred to a graphic design program at Woodbury. So
how long was the program there at Woodbury?
It was 4-year program, but since I already had a lot of credits from LAVC, I went for 3 years.
Did you like the program?
Yeah, I got amazing education. Sometimes you hear people telling other people that schools are kind of like bullshit. But I am very, very happy with my education. They are very, very tough on the students because it's a private school. They have a good name,
Yeah. I think with school, part of it is obviously the school matters. Part of it is also what do you make of the experience itself? Because like the school I went to, people outside of that state will not know what that school is. No one's ever heard of it. But when I got there, like once I started doing the career fairs, that kind of stuff, I was surprised at the volume and the quality of the employers that were recruiting from the school.
Was it a private school?
No, public school, Ohio
Interesting.
University. Yeah, it's like in Southeast Ohio, rural, like it's not a city. It's like a college town. But you had these big companies. You had companies like J.P. Morgan, all the big four. You have like the auditing firms. So I think it's a because I agree with what you said, where people say, "Oh, the school's kind of
especially
whatever."
now because everything exists on the internet. You can learn anything on YouTube, so it's like pointless to go to school. But I personally don't agree.
Yeah, because it depends again what type of learner you are too. If you're someone that on your own can do things, like not just do things, but specifically can like sit down, look at a curriculum, or let's say, okay, I want to learn Photoshop. If I wanted to learn Photoshop, I would need someone to like I won't be able to teach myself it just because like I won't like motivate myself enough. Because once I'm outside that class setting, if I don't have to do it, I'm not gonna do it.
I think it also has a lot to do with what you have passion for. If you really like doing a certain thing, you are going to dedicate that time to learn from any source you can find.
Yeah.
I in my opinion.
No, I agree. No, that's a good point because that helps. Like, again, it's like if you're forced to, because there's like some companies, for example, like if you're in like accounting or auditing, they expect you to get your CPA certification. And then if you don't get it, you're probably not going to make it there for long. So like if I was in that situation, I have no interest in getting that because I'm not even that interested.
Unnecessary pressure. Like, just don't make me do that.
Exactly. So that I wouldn't like. I would not have that passion. So I'd be like, oh my gosh, I hate this whole process. But if it was something, whatever, anything else that like I'm really into, and I'm like, okay, well, this I can kind of get. Like it's the same with like reading with me, for example. Like I don't like force myself to read, but I read.
True. Like when it's a textbook, when you have to learn, you have to go do a test on the material you read. It's automatically you don't want to do it.
Exactly. That's the absolute worst, and that's why like when it would come to studying, I'd never do it until night before.
Design education that I got lucky with, we didn't have many readings to do. It was mostly studio classes, very technical. We had to learn the softwares. We would do mostly research because, when you're coming up with a design or whatever, you have to have a concept.
Right.
So for concept, you have to do a lot of reading to find meanings. Why you did what you did. Why did you choose this color? Why did you choose this font? You have to have reasoning behind everything. And it has to be beyond personal choice.
Do you think that's unique to that program specifically at Woodbury, or do you think in general those types of programs?
If you are doing arts, and if you want to make money off doing art, you have to give your client a good reason to believe why you did what you did. Right. It has to be more than just like, oh, I think it looks cool. It has to be beyond that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like a color. I chose purple or I chose blue. Why? Because each color has a meaning. Each color has a psychological meaning.
Mm.
Each color psychologically triggers a certain thing. Like fast food restaurants, they
Red and
have a
yellow.
lot of green. Yellow and red. So yellow and red makes you want to eat. That's why
It's
it's
so
in
interesting how that
architecture
works.
and interior design. It's not a great idea to have those colors in your kitchen because you're gonna be eating all day. So a lot of those things we had to learn, which
Mm.
is interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just math.
Yeah. That you only had to do in your GEs, I'm sure, right? Once you finish your like the math, that stuff,
Right,
that's
right,
not really
right.
relevant at
No.
all to.
I mean, it is on web design. You have to know a lot of, math to do the math, to
Uh,
calculate and develop the code, whatever. Not my thing. Yeah. I
Got
mean,
it.
I took the classes, but would I do web development? No. Too much thinking, too much coding.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a side of it. Were your classroom sizes small for
Pretty
that
small.
program?
I had a classroom size like 8 people, 5 people. Yeah.
I
Because
think
it
that
was an
also makes
expensive school. Not everyone would really
right.
want to get that much loan.
Yeah. But I think that also does make the experience
It
better
does.
because I've been fortunately I haven't had too many lecture setting classes, but the ones that I've had, I almost if I don't this is a personal thing. If I don't sit in the front anywhere outside that front row, I'm out. Like I
Yeah.
may as well not even be in
Yeah.
the class. My mind just wanders. I can't pay
Very true.
attention, and it's a very difficult setting, at least for me, to learn in something like that.
Mhm.
The smaller ones, once they were like 30 and less, 40 and like if I could see the teacher easily, those ones I was typically more successful
Mhm.
in, just because I felt more I felt closer and you feel more
Definitely. And then the
engaged.
one-on-one interaction with
Mm,
the teacher
definitely.
at my school in my school experience was I will always had that in almost every class. It's a private school also, they want you to succeed.
Mhm.
They really want you to do well. So they spend a lot of time on explaining you over and over again until you get it.
So your interactions with your professors overall were positive?
Definitely. And I still do have really good connections with the school. I currently sometimes go here and there. I go on like finals for students as a crit. So
Hmm.
I kept a really good connection. They always, refer jobs and different, meetings, interesting things that they think I would be interested to go. They
Right.
always send me emails. So
I think that's a very
yeah.
important thing to do and probably not commonly done because
Hmm.
I think with a lot of people, it's like, thank goodness I'm done with school, everything just gone out
I
the
mean, a lot of
window.
people do that, but
Yeah.
I personally had such a great experience, such good connections with some of the professors.
Mm.
I chose to keep really good connections.
Yeah, because again, you don't know, like,
I got a
circumstances like came up for
right.
you, stuff
I
like
got
that
a
might
job
happen.
through school. My department chair, Persian lady, amazing, wonderful lady, really good, contact
Mhm.
with her, and she got me hooked with Disney. So I got a position at Disney for a year and a half. I had a contract because of my school. So can't forget that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you about that too.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, I think again that's why kind of where it comes back to, like, it depends what you make of the experience, because one, I think it does make a difference if you just go like, I hate this place, I just want to finish, I just
Oh
want, because
yeah,
I was like
yeah,
that
me too.
initially too, and that's why I
I
didn't
think we
enjoy
all
it.
kind of go through that phase.
Right.
When things get hard, we tend to hate it, but then we have to remind ourselves that we are doing what we really like to do. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think if it's very important to, I think, keep some level of relation with the professor, a
mhm,
genuine one. If you
mhm,
didn't like them, then
mhm,
I'm not suggesting that you just fake something. But if
definitely.
there's a professor that, I'm not saying you even have to love, if you liked them, they
Yeah,
were
I
a
mean
good,
there has to
effective
be the
professor.
personal
Yeah,
connection too. It's not just using the people, getting things done.
yeah.
It can't be like that.
Because there's a reason they're there. Hopefully it's a good reason they're there. It's because they're competent to be
Hmm.
there. And if that's the case, then they, outside of what they're doing as teaching, they've already done what they're teaching. They've done that in their
Hmm.
professional setting to some
Hmm.
extent.
Hmm.
So that's a resource for you while you're in school and after school. Because I've had it where, because I studied finance, I graduated. Even like after I had graduated, I would like communicate with my professors, like with like questions, like, or with other like grad school questions, like, what do you think about this, what kind of stuff should I look out for. And because I maintained that from the beginning, like just checking in, like, how are you doing? I think that was why they even felt, one, they're educators, so they
Right,
want to
because
help.
at the end of the day, we all are humans. We like that genuine care and
Mm,
connection.
hmm.
You can't ask somebody how you're doing if if it's not true.
Yeah,
If you're asking just to get something off that
yeah,
person,
and
it's like the fake smile, the
yeah,
fake hello.
yeah, and I think it's very, easy to tell usually when that's the
I think
case.
so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious to hear what your thoughts on that was, because I think if that was the approach used more, because look, you're gonna have professors that aren't great. It's
All the time. All
inevitable.
the time.
But the ones that you have, in that situation, you just got to do your best to make the most of it, and just keep in mind that it's only 10 weeks, however long the
Right.
course is.
Right.
But then the ones that are positive, I think it's important to maintain that, just because you never know what
Definitely.
comes from it. Like something like
Definitely.
that happened with you.
Well,
I've
you never
gotten
know how
good
you're gonna
advice.
help them, you know?
Like that, and
Why
that too.
not? It's
Yeah.
not just getting all the time.
Yeah, because you never know. A question you might ask them is something that for whatever reason, somehow no one's asked that.
Mhm.
So you just don't know.
Mhm.
They haven't asked, and then
Very
they have to
true.
think about it. Like, okay, this is actually something that maybe if I include in the
Right.
thing,
Right.
or if in whatever capacity, it could be a mutual,
Very true.
beneficial for both parties. So I want to go back to when you were mentioning photography.
Mm-hmm.
You decided, let me pick it up and do it.
Right. I had some skills.
So you had
I took
okay,
2 photography classes. That was part of my degree. We had to, as designers, we have to, understand photography. And then yeah, I decided to try. I mean, I would travel a lot and take a lot of pictures. I would post a lot of cool architecture photography on my Instagram. And then I was like, let me try to shoot people. And then boom, it happened.
and was that like a seamless transition for you, going from doing essentially stationary things to actual people? Was that like easy
It was
transition, or was it kind of there was a learning curve?
it was not easy because some people are not as confident as you think they are.
Hmm.
And then the process of, delivering the pictures that you took for them, some people want some changes,
Hmm.
like Photoshop my nose, do this, do that, until I realized these are not the type of people I prefer working with. So I started doing art photography.
What's
I
that?
mostly shoot women who are totally comfortable with what they look like.
Hmm.
They don't look at their own pictures as, oh my God, this is me. I look great, or I look horrible. They look at the pieces as pieces of art.
Hmm.
So that's my approach with photography. I wouldn't say that photography is a job for me. It's more of a hobby, but
Okay.
it got me to places. It got me to a lot of good places. I had a job that I got laid off from because of the corona. I was working at a big entertainment company called Entercom.
Hmm.
They had a lot of radio stations all over the nation, so it was the music industry. And because of my photography skills, I ended up backstage on many of those events with really big celebrities, and I have really amazing shots from Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, Becky G, Snoop Dogg, you name it. So, but that was part of my job. That was part of my corporate job. It's not like I was getting paid for that,
Hmm.
but that was the most amazing experience for me to just be there and do that effortlessly,
Yeah.
and with confidence.
And what's that like when you like your first big show that you went to? How did you feel?
That's a really good question. I never thought about how I felt.
So like while you were there, did you
Definitely
feel?
blissful, like
Hmm.
adrenaline, like,
Hmm.
oh my God, look at where I am. Coming from a whole different country, when even being in this country was a big dream.
Hmm.
And I've always been kind of obsessed with not the celebrities, but the art they create. I've always been curious about what do they think about when they create these videos? Like what does this mean? Sometimes you see really wild and crazy music videos. You go like, I wonder why they did what they did. So then boom, all of a sudden I'm in that side of the world. I'm like, oh my God. Even though, that was it, just taking pictures, but I'm pretty sure that was the beginning of something that's gonna come in the future.
Yeah, I haven't had that many interactions with like, well, not like barely any, but I would wonder how I'd react to where you
Mm.
see people like that in that, especially doing
Right.
what they're known for doing.
Right.
I would imagine seeing it and then trying to capture it
Yeah. I mean, I've
is
had
something.
a multiple, very much more intimate ones when I was. Well, my job at the company was a graphic designer, so I was stuck at my desk.
Hmm.
But because they knew I had all these skills, sometimes when a lot of artists would come for morning interviews at the station, when some of the video people were missing, they would ask me to go shoot like the interviews. And being in like very small, like probably a room this size, with who did I experience? I experienced George Lopez, the Black Eyed Peas, Will I Am, and the other 2 boys. Can't remember the names. Who else? Lizzo, not Lizzo. Lazy something, some actress. some big names,
Mm-hmm.
some small names,
Yeah.
the chain smokers. And the funniest thing is I knew chain smokers music, but I had no idea what the guys looked like. So these guys walk in, they shake everyone's hands, they introduce themselves. I'm like, oh cool, I don't even know who they are. And then boom, they leave. I'm like, oh my god, these were the guys. So it's an interesting feeling, it's like almost like your childhood dream to interact with people like this, to know what they're about, to know how they think, to know how they create, to hear some stories that they tell, how they came up with this song, that song. It's very inspiring. Me being an artist, it's amazing to see their thought process, their creativity, their inspirations. Where do they go? What do they do to be able to create and, keep the fire?
All right. What was your level of interaction with them? Would you have not necessarily conversations, but would you have any kind of verbal
Oh yeah,
exchanges?
definitely.
And
I
were
would
they?
ask questions,
Yeah,
like throw compliments here and there. They're very, very, very humble people, most of them.
yeah. I'm kind
Most
of
of
curious.
them. George
That's what I was
Lopez,
wondering.
amazing man. We were joking around, and then I had a picture from that day I posted. He goes on my page. He comments under the picture that I tagged, posted and tagged him. Yeah, some of them are nice. Some of them won't even look at you. So it just depends on the artist. But
I won't ask you who, but the first time that may have happened where they kind of didn't really acknowledge you, were you just kind of like, whatever, let me just do what I have to do, or was it kind of like, that stunk?
yeah, it's not. You don't take it personal because you know it's obvious.
Yeah,
They see so much of that. They don't care. They want
yeah,
their peace. They don't even want to talk to a lot of
yeah.
people.
I honestly, there's a point where I wonder, in those kind of things where, like, it seems like they brushed someone off. Like, I wonder if they even realize that that's what happened. Because, like you said, they're so used to it.
Honestly, I highly doubt that they realize. Can you imagine how much they have to deal with
No.
daily?
Yeah, exactly.
Great, exactly. Yeah. So I don't think they realize. Even if they do, they're probably so sick of it.
Yeah.
Imagine caring about every single person that tells you, "Oh my God, I love you." It's too much.
And there's only so many things you can say. It's just thank you, I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank
yeah,
you, I appreciate it.
yeah.
And
Like,
saying it the amount of times you have to say it, and I think that's one thing that kind of gets lost on people as fans. It's like, why I was asking for an autograph, they didn't look at me, I called them out. It's like, they hear this so much.
yeah, very true. I don't know. It depends on the person, I guess.
Yeah,
Depends on the level of fame.
that too.
Will I am was a cool guy. I took a selfie with the guy after the interview.
I saw
and
the
then,
picture.
Yeah, I posted on my page, and then I guess he saw my picture through the tags
Mhm.
that he's on. And then he went on my page and commented on one of the arts that I posted. It was not
Really?
even my work. It was some cool art I reposted from a random page. And he was like, dope, or this is cool, something like that. And I was like, oh my God, yes, my doors are opening up. So I DM back. I go like, hey, thank you so much for the selfie. I would love to do shit for you guys. He was like, okay. I was like, yes, that's it. I made it. And then I asked him to, whatever day you guys are, jamming in the studio, I can just, show up and take some pictures. And he never responded. I was like, oh, well, at least he gave me some attention.
Yeah, like the fact that you even got the first response with an okay, that's still like, I would feel that same way where I'm like, oh, sweet, they said something.
So yeah, he's down. He didn't even ignore it. He said, okay, 3 explanation marks.
Yeah, and again, I can only imagine someone at that level and people even higher, people even slightly lower that are still have a level of fame. The amount of messaging in every social media platform and email and all this phone, this, that, to even get any kind of response
it would be very overwhelming.
Yeah. So because there's people like I've like reached out to other, like I'll reach out knowing I'm like, if they even see this, I'll be surprised. And then that's why, like, a lot of I end up not even hearing back, but like I approach it with the assumption that I'm probably not gonna hear. They're getting so many things from business related, management, other whatever else they might do.
It sucks to even try to imagine that,
Yeah, like the level of emails I already do now, which is nothing. Like there's times where I'm like, oh, I forgot to respond to that, or I forgot to respond to that, so I can only imagine.
I recently I work with this beauty company. They're called Beauty on Wheels. Me and my good friend shoot for them. They are a van. They have a little mini hair salon inside this van, and they do work with a lot of celebrities. So recently we went to shoot Chris Brown's daughter's birthday party.
Cool.
Just kids party. And 1 minute small Instagram video for the brand. That's all we do. So we go. The party was at Chris Brown's mom's house. Cool people, super cool, humble people. And then I was taking a break, and then I ended up having a conversation with the mom. And I was asking the same questions. I was like, so how is it to be a mom of such a big star? She was like, honestly, I'm so happy that he's made it. He's always dreamed of having the life that he has, but it's overwhelming. And like the things that
Hmm.
she told, I can imagine it's almost like heaven and hell fight. Like you got what you've always wanted, but it came with all these side effects of
Yeah.
not having a social life. Every time you leave your home, something happens. Somebody wants to sue you. Somebody wants to get something out of you. So yeah, she was like, I don't know. Maybe if I went back in time, I probably would have not, let him be what he became. She's like, but that's what he wanted. So
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like once you reach some level like that, you wonder like leaving your house, like can I peacefully get from
can
where
you
I'm going to
imagine?
where I'm trying to get back home
Oh my
without any kind of
God.
interaction.
Any kind of drama.
Yeah, drama. Interaction I guess is fine, but if
Yeah.
it's like some kind of
Yeah.
spat happens
Yeah.
and then there's a certain level where like you can't go anywhere on your own, you have to have
Yeah.
some kind of personnel with
Yeah.
you.
I don't think that would be fun.
No, not at all. There's something you said while we were prepping that
Mm-hmm.
I found interesting. You said because you were like making some suggestions on stuff to do
Right.
here,
Right.
and you said like on your way in, you kind of thought of some
Uh-huh.
stuff, right? That's something that is um not, like I can't even imagine having that happen because I'm not creative whatsoever. I don't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You said you've been enjoying doing this artistic kind of stuff since
Mm-hmm.
you were a kid. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember a moment or something where you started realizing, wait, I'm good at this. I can think like that. Where I can think of
Yes,
stuff
I
like that.
actually do remember the second that turned me into an
Perfect.
artist.
Please share.
I have a very good memory. I was probably, I want to say 3 or 4. I was in a kindergarten back home.
You can remember that
I
far
can
back.
remember a lot of stuff. I can remember things where I wasn't even talking, but I can bring the visual memory. I can give so many details.
Mm.
My mom goes like, "I can't believe you remember that." Yeah, details. I probably wasn't even walking, but I remember stuff.
Wow.
So I'm probably 3 or 4. Um, all the parents took all the kids, and like my mom was being late, so I'm the only one there. And that day we had art session, and I'm looking at my teacher. She's going through all the paintings that all the kids did, and she pauses on one of the paintings. She lifts it up against the light, and from my chair I can see it's my painting. She looks at it for a good like 15, 20 seconds. She tilts it around, turns it around, she puts it back, and then my mom arrives. She asked my mom to have it sit down. So, and then she puts the painting in front of my mom. She goes like, I think your kid has some kind of a talent. That was it.
What was the painting?
I don't remember what the painting was, but I remember I had like small dots on the paint. The dots is the only thing that I remember.
Interesting.
Like a repetition of some dots in dark purple. That's all I remember.
So from there, you would
from
just
from that was it. That was the moment. And then from then on, I tried dancing. I loved it, but my brain was always gravitated towards visual arts. So
do you still paint?
every once in a while, but now I'm more in a digital side of art.
And is that because it's right now that's kind of what you're more passionate about?
And skilled at too.
More so than painting, you'd say?
Definitely, yeah.
Was there a point where because that first moment was a painting? Was there a time where you were still painting, you were painting, and then it just kind of you weren't painting as much and you started doing the digital stuff
I think
more?
that
Is that what
happened around 7th, 8th grade when everyone was getting ready and my classmates were getting ready to, start choosing a focus to go for, universities, colleges. And at that point I was like, but what do I want to do? And back home, you can't really make a living doing out of art. What are you going to do? Like, nothing really. And around that time, I knew that I was going to move here. So I was, for a good year or two, I was in a very indecisive mode. I was like, I'm not going to paint, but I'm not even going to go to school here after high school. So what am I going to do? I know I'm going to move, but when am I going to move? Like, I was going through this phase of confusion of not knowing what I'm going to do until I moved here. And boom, just graphic design just came to me.
Was there a moment during all that or at any point where you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I can make a living out of this. So maybe I'll do this instead. That wasn't in art, or it was always that didn't even cross your mind. It was always nope. It's going to be something in
When
art.
I was way younger, I'm an animal lover, huge. So I thought I was gonna be a vet, but then I knew I hated reading studying science. I love science. I will watch documentaries all day long, but if I have to sit down and study and go for a test, screw that.
Yeah.
I don't like tests. I don't like when people test me. I don't like tests. I would love to at Woodbury. All we did was just presenting. Like the major classes, we had no tests. Maybe a couple for history classes, but mostly presentations. You have to prepare your work, put it on the wall or whatever. If you had a 3D mock-up, put it down and you just stand up in front of like 50 people you presented.
So in that presentation, what are you doing? Are you explaining what it is,
You are
what the
explaining
process
what it
was?
is, you are explaining your research, you are explaining why you did what you did. Again, colors, fonts, shapes, this is round and circular because circle represents this. So you give the background of symbolism. And then they tear you apart because most of the judges, they always give negative comments so you can do better. And then you go home crying and then you become a better designer.
Do you think that's an effective way for this type of thing? Is that like having a judge panel like that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's an effective way if you are the type of person who can do better when you're being challenged. I myself, when somebody challenges me, I'm like, oh, you watch me. So I'll do better. I'll learn more. I'll work harder. But some people just, they get heartbroken and they start hating what they do. So I think it depends on the person.
So in your interactions with your classmates and people, which way did it seem like people were leaning with that? Well, because I'm sure there's people at some point they're like, man, screw this judge. He said this, this, and that.
It was kind of like in between because the school would train us. You cannot take it personal. You cannot take it personal. So we were not even, I'm not going to say we were not allowed to, but it was part of the grading. If you were to argue with the judge, like kind of like, not agree with them, or at least say thank you, they would drop your grade.
Really?
So you have to learn how to take criticism, which is a great skill overall in life too.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be work related. If you can't take criticism, you can't really grow, I think.
No, I absolutely agree.
It's a great idea to look at things from so many different perspectives so you have a better understanding of situation, job, whatever, person.
Yeah, I think specifically for something in the arts where there's moments where you can be judged depending on what you're doing, or even when you're, it's not even a judge setting like that, but where you're dealing with a client where they ask you, I want this, you give it to them. You don't know what kind of person the client is. They might be well, I don't really like it, or they just like, this sucks, what the hell, this, that. So I think it's better that, for me, again, I'm usually more like, I don't necessarily need it to be dressed up and pretty, like the feedback. You can tell me, hey man, this sucks, do better. All right, fine. But even if you're not like that, I think it's better to have them be a little more stern for that reason. Because in case you end up doing something where you're dealing with, in one-on-one stuff, you're doing kind of what you're doing, for example, you're better prepared, kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, hey, people are different. Especially in arts. Arts is not a static thing. It can be right or wrong. It depends. One person, I'll make a logo or I'll do a photograph, I'll make a video. One person will say, oh my God, this is dope, this is amazing. And then another person will be like, yeah, I don't like it.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you this later, but since you just brought it up, I'll ask you now. So yeah, it's said art is subjective, which I agree with, but at the same time, I'm going to contradict myself. So I think it is subjective, but there's some stuff that I see, I'm like, is there really anyone that thinks this is art or thinks this is good or whatever? So for example, this was done as a joke. This was like a year, it was sometime back. Like LACMA, that thing? Yeah. Because that one, they just have like, in the like objects or stuff, right? Like on the, okay. So this person was being satirical about it. They put like a banana peel. They did something silly. Like it wasn't.
I think I've seen it on social media.
Yeah. So they did something silly like that, put it down, and then like I think they started pretending like, oh, what is this? And then all of a sudden a crowd gathers and people are legitimately looking at this thing like, oh, is this thing? Is there certain stuff where it's like, no, dude, that's not art. You just went, or is seriously nope? It doesn't matter. It might be for someone.
I think it's combination of art and a very good manipulative storytelling.
Mm.
I'm not gonna say it's manipulative, not in a negative way. I mean, it's a skill. It's a form of art to sell your art. That's not really art. It's just a banana on the wall, you know. It's just it depends on what kind of story you wrap around it.
Mm.
Same with design, you know. Yeah, a red logo might not be a good idea for a bank, but if you know how to sell, if you can convince that red works, then it works. Yeah, color psychology, yeah, it's a thing. We learned it. But what if not always, you know? I think everything in life is kind of like that.
How big is that color cycle? How effective, I should say, is color psychology, do you
Well,
think? Or is it like by person basis?
no, there's actually psychology study done on color. Interior cultures, like I don't know, in one of the Middle Eastern cultures, you are not, like they cannot have any green on the floors. They cannot walk on green because green is the color of their god.
Mm.
So you can't step on God's color.
Mm.
So a lot of interior designers need to know this. What if you're an interior designer, you get hired by this Middle Eastern person to go design their mansion, you cannot put green carpets. So there is a cultural meaning behind it, there is the psychology behind it, and then there's the color study, like visual.
Yeah, there's
Shit show.
yeah, that's the thing. That's part of why I wanted to bring you on, because I have little to not little. I have no knowledge in this space. So part of it is like I kind of want to get an idea of how it works and
I mean,
how
to-
like
to
all
me
of that is
personally,
very fascinating to me.
very
That there's this level of that there's that amount of stuff that is thought
Right.
about in all this
I'm
is pretty
personally
crazy.
fascinated by the psychology aspect of it. Colors do actually, according to psychologists, they do trigger some things in your brain. They say you can't have bright yellow in kids' bedroom because they become super hyper and they have hard time sleeping. So, could be right.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
if there's like enough evidence that supports that,
Yeah.
the only one of pertaining to color that I've heard is the yellow and red regarding fast food. That's why I see
Yeah,
In-N-Out, McDonald's are the two that I can think of off the top of
And
my
blue
head.
and purple are like they convey trust. That's why banks are mostly blue.
Chase, Citibank,
Yeah.
Bank of America has some blue in there. Interesting.
Wells Fargo is
Entirely red.
entirely red.
What's red's thing? Red is the only food?
Red
Hunger?
is caution, like caution. Obviously, that's the sign. It triggers like intense feelings because it's so intense.
I guess that does make sense for Wells Fargo given some
Always
of
on your
their
toes.
transgressions. You mentioned that love for animals. I was looking at your Instagram before because I was like okay, because I'll do like a dive into the guest thing, and then I saw.
Don't tell me you saw my bunny. Did you see?
No, I didn't. I wish I saw the bunny. What I saw was scarier. I saw the snake.
No.
That's like so. I was in the car. I was driving with Armand, and then I was looking through. I'm like, is this a real snake?
It was
He's
a real
like,
snake.
he's like, I think it is. And
It
I'm
was
looking
real-
at him. I'm
it was
like, this
actually
looks pretty
two of
real.
them.
Those two?
Two of them. Yeah. I don't have I do have a shot with two of them actually. It's on my page, but two snakes. Yeah.
Was it a python? What was that?
Python.
Don't those like? Can't they kill? Aren't they
They do,
venomous?
but they're trained, and if they're fed, they're not gonna kill you.
Snakes can get full. There's a limit where they're like, I
think
won't
they
eat anymore.
digest food for a week, so they eat
Okay.
once a week. The owner said I just fed them like 3 hours ago. I was like, okay, I have a less chance to die today.
So okay, so basically, what this picture was is so it's two. All of them were they two?
I
In all the
mean,
pictures,
no,
or
only
some were
in
one?
one of them. Let me show
Okay.
you right now, even though we're on a podcast.
Yeah, there. So while you pull it up, I'll explain it. So basically, there's a picture
There's two,
where
there's two of them here.
oh, this is the one. Okay, I saw
Yeah.
this one too. Yeah, so we'll put a link to your socials and stuff. So
Sweet.
basically, there's this one looks innocent, I guess, because they look friendly. The snakes
One
here.
was small, and the small one's name I think was Butterfly.
nice name for a snake. So when one of them, the snake is wrapped around you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful shot.
It
Shout
is,
out
but
to
it's
my
also
friend
terrifying
Pico.
to see. Yeah, very.
You
It's
think
a very.
it's a beautiful. Come on.
No, I agree. No, it's like when you're looking at it, like this looks really badass. But at the same time, like
Yeah.
if that was me, I'd be like
No, I can
immediately
see
unravel
that.
and throw it away.
I can see that.
So was there any fear at all at any point?
Absolutely, no. I mean, just the thought that the snake can squeeze me to death any moment was there, but at the same time, I was like, I have two men around me. They're gonna save me somehow. I was like, one can just stab the snake or
It's
something.
so trusting. I'd be like, I don't care if there's a million people here. I'm still
No.
gonna be
I
like,
mean,
I don't know.
the scary thought was that they actually might bite, They usually don't. They squeeze you to death. And if they bite,
Better
I think their
alternative.
teeth are inwards. So if they bite you and if you try to pull it, it's gonna rip you.
Ah, good to know, just in
So
case.
that was the only thought. I was like, just don't bite me.
So how did that come about? Was that something you thought of or someone
It
approached
was for
you?
my birthday. I turned 28 on March 28th in the year of 2020. A lot of twos and eights. I was like, and I love cool matching numbers. I was like, it's a big number. I should probably do a cool photo shoot. And then for some reason, I have an obsession with the way snakes look,
Hmm.
and the kind of like the symbolic meaning of snakes, wisdom and mystery. And then I was like, yeah, I want to shoot with the snake. So me and my friend, the guy who took the pictures, we drove to Venice Beach. We found this guy who stands there with the snake so people can take pictures.
Is this the same guy like I feel like everyone
It's
talks about? Or is this like an assortment of men that have mysterious snakes? It's one dude?
yeah, a very nice, sweet black man. He has like over 12 snakes.
Jeez.
Yeah. He drove to the location. He brought the snakes. It's very nice and easy.
Have you seen the logo of the podcast? This is because that's a
Yes, I
snake.
did.
That's the only reason I bring it up because you
I've
mentioned a
noticed. I
snake.
was like, shit, that's my shit.
Yeah, because that specifically, like I don't remember where I read about. I still don't. I think it's pronounced Ouroboros. I don't know where I first heard about those or read about it because the whole meaning behind that is it symbolizes perpetuity. Where it's a snake or a dragon, it can be either or eating its tail, symbolizing
right, like
infinity.
eternity.
Yes, exactly.
Right, infinity, and then medicine. It's a big symbol of
like
healing and medicine. And then there's this what's it called? In Kabbalah teaching, there is Kundalini energy, Kundalini, whatever. It's like the energy centers in your body, the chakras. When they all get aligned, it almost feels like two snakes coming together.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've noticed now that you mention it, as soon as you mentioned medicine, that came to my mind. Like pharmacies will have.
Yeah, that's like the international symbol of medicine.
But why? Do you know why?
I think it comes from ancient times. Because if you look at do some research about ancient medicine, like psychedelics, plants and stuff, they do have a lot of symbols with snakes. Look at gods and goddesses in every culture except Christianity. They all have snakes.
Yeah. That's interesting now that I think about them. Like they are pretty prevalent, and I guess
Very
was
much
always.
So
really
basically, Christianity is the only religion that threw shade on those creatures.
I
personally think snakes, even in Christianity, I don't think they represent devil. I think they represent knowledge and wisdom.
Well, there is a negative connotation, right? If you call someone a snake, you're not complimenting them.
Right. No, I'm talking about this.
In general, though, that's what's interesting to me, that if the original symbolism was, symbolize wisdom and all these things, it's interesting how I don't know how. I'm not even saying that you don't. It's just kind of an interesting path where it went from that to now. It's if you're you don't call you're such a snake, man. Like it's never.
Yeah, it's never a positive thing. No, I agree.
Interesting.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but they scare me in the sense that I don't want it by me, but they don't scare me enough where it's like an active fear. Because for example, like spiders you see more. I don't see snakes.
I have a very active fear from spiders.
See, those are kind of interesting to me, where there's a much smaller creature, but you're willing to have
it almost feels like you don't have much control with insects. They're so small and they're so they're so gross.
But what's the control with the snake wrapped around you? There's
at least it's big. You can.
I don't think you can pull.
I guess it's just me.
I feel like if I try pulling, it's gonna be like that's it. No, but all jokes aside, that when I saw that, I was like, this is crazy.
Plus, snakes are slow. Not every snake. Big snakes are slow.
Do you know how long that one was?
I don't remember.
I don't know. It looked long.
It was not too long.
It was
fat, but not long.
Yeah, it was kind of fatty too.
Yeah. So that's the snake story.
Yeah, I was like, I have to ask about this. Like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, I might just open it up with that. I might be like, this is Ani. Okay, what's going on with the snake? Because that I was
literal. Just they look really cool.
They do, 100%.
And they have interesting energy. They're very calm, and it's very hard to. They don't have any emotion. They just move around. You look at them. You're like, I'm wondering what you're thinking about, or
What was the bunny one you were thinking that?
So I have 3 animals. I had 4. One ran away. I have a dog and a cat and a bunny.
A dog, cat. What was the one that ran away?
And I had a bird. My bird ran away a couple weeks ago, escaped the cage. I had a little parrot, but
Did you have him for long? Him, her?
the parrot was 2 months in.
Oh, okay.
And just wasn't meant to. But the dog, I had him for 5 years. Bunny and the cat came around the same time, about a year and a half. And they're a big happy family. They're all friends. Bunny doesn't know that it's a bunny. If he's around the dog, he thinks it's a dog. If he's around the cat, he thinks it's a cat. There's
Really?
absolutely no fear. But my dog fears the bunny. It's a
What dog?
show. My dog.
No, what dog is it?
Oh, it's my dog. uh, that's so funny. It's a Pomeranian and a Yorkie mix. Very
I don't
spoiled,
think
but
I don't think I've seen a Pomsky. That's a Pomeranian Husky. Have you ever seen those?
Yes, beautiful.
They're
like
adorable.
Pomeranian size, but husky features.
Yeah, the one I saw was a little bit bigger than a Pomeranian, but it wasn't like a husky with the fluffiness.
Yeah.
But I saw that, I'm like, this thing is adorable. But that's two dogs that shed a bunch, and now they're into
they
one.
do.
I was like,
They do.
I'm gonna have to pass on that.
Yeah. No, but yeah, animals are cool. They're
And then
cool.
that love, the passion for animals was always
It's
there.
always been there ever since I was a kid. I remember when I was small, I would cry. I'd be like, I want a horse. I don't care. I want a horse. My mom was like, we have a small plate. Where do you expect us to have the horse? But that's one of the future goals. I'm gonna need to have a horse.
Yeah, horses. I'm not a fan, which might not be the best time to say it,
No.
considering you like them.
No.
Yeah, and it's all entirely because of one experience.
You fell.
No, I didn't.
You got stepped on.
No, it's not even a big
got
deal
slapped on.
whatsoever. Nothing physically harming me. It was more just out of disgust. I was sitting on it, and because I was younger, I was sitting on the horse, and this thing just started peeing, and it
Oh.
peed with such ferocity, and it's just
Oh.
splashing
No.
everywhere. And I'm like, this is absolutely disgusting. I don't
And
care
you got
what anyone
traumatized.
says. Yeah, I'm like, I don't care how majestic people claim this animal to be. This thing is gross.
No.
No, but I mean, they're
They're
so
interesting creatures. Despite the love that I had for horses ever since I was a kid.
And
while
that
I
also,
was-
sorry to cut you off, but
Mhm.
that love also is just kind of like, I just like horses. Like, it just came to
Yeah,
be.
it's like you're almost like born with the way you are.
Hmm.
Some things, obviously, you can always mold and change and grow as a person, but some things are just there. It's your engine.
Mhm.
But while I was at Woodbury, I took this very interesting class. It was a interdisciplinary course, which we all had to take. It was a combination of psychology and philosophy around horses. So it was about
Specifically about its entire class.
Yes, about horses, how horses were huge in Renaissance times. So
Interesting.
horses were, one of the most important things around those times. And then we would also learn how psychologically horses really connect with the owner.
Hmm.
So basically, with your just thoughts and emotions, you can tell the horse what to do. Go fast, stop, get angry, that. And then we would do kind of like sessions with horses. Every 2 weeks, we would go to a ranch and experiment with the horses, feel their energy. There was this practice we would do of bonding with the horses. We would do the practice, and the horses would really bond with us. Everywhere we would walk, they would follow us.
Wow.
It was so cool.
That's
Very
such a cool class.
They would follow us. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was a very cool course. It's not just about the writing and the fun of it. There is a lot of and they would bring people with mental illnesses to that ranch for healing purposes. The horses would actually really help them.
So that's considered also an animal that
Mhm.
can provide the
Mhm.
emotional, which makes sense given what you're saying
Mhm.
about the bonding.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I mean, I always heard they're smart creatures, but to that level, I didn't know.
I mean,
That's
they're
pretty
not like
fascinating.
dogs. And they don't show
Yeah.
happy emotion,
Yeah.
but deeply they're connected to your own emotions.
That's very fascinating.
Mhm.
And right before you started that, you mentioned, because I asked you about the horse thing, you said it's something that you kind of already had, you're kind of born with. And I had written down this to ask you. So with art, do you think, because this is something like I've heard people like kind of debate, and I'm not even sure where I stand
Mhm.
on it. Is someone's ability to be artistic something you're born with, do you think, or it's something that even if you have, like, for example, me, I can't draw, I can't do anything artistic.
Mhm. If
If I just start right now, I'm like, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna study, I'm gonna do all this, like all the whatever technical stuff
Mhm.
there is. Can I match and get to where you are, or it's like, sorry, dude, tough luck.
I think yes and no. To me, I believe when you are born, You're a baby, you're a blank page. Yes, let's compare humans with machines. Let's say you buy a PC and you buy a Mac. They're brand new, there's nothing installed in them, but they have different features. So I believe we are born with different features, but you can always install new things and learn if you really want to. And so if you really want to, I do think that everybody has the capacity to be creative.
Hmm.
Because if you're created, you have the ability to build things. You can build anything you want. I believe in the power of mind when it comes to this. If you put your mind into it, you're going to achieve anything you want. I think it comes down to passion. Do you have the passion for it or not?
Hmm.
If
Yeah,
you
I
don't
think that
have
was
it,
a
you're
good
not
analogy.
just in a million years, you're not going to care to learn.
So I have a chance.
Everybody has a chance. All you have to do is want to do a certain thing or not.
Yeah, because I was wondering when you agreed, I was that was one of the things I thought about, and I started to wonder a little bit. I'm like, oh, where do I stand on this? Because again, I've said it on other pods that I've recorded. Like I don't know where I stand on you're born with this or people are naturally like this. I don't know how much of that I'm into. The part that I think I was thinking is you might like the first time you try and doodle something. It might be like let's say you're a kid. You do it and you take another kid who does it. You look at one, you're like, that actually looks pretty good. The other
Yeah,
one, you're
again,
like,
it's like your naturally given features. I want to say I have a friend, and her probably in her 40s, and her whole life she never thought she would ever do art. Never crossed her brain until recently she grabs a piece of paper and she starts drawing things. If you see her paintings, you will fall on your back.
it was like the first time she ever gave it a shot.
In a year she does full on walls of like she does
Wow.
interior paintings like as part of design of the place. Amazing and very like how do I explain? I'll send you her link.
Yeah.
Very psychedelic looking art.
Hmm.
You look at it so abstract, but you can see creatures and faces and weird animals which are not real, but she sees this somehow.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you mentioned like when you made that analogy with an Apple, you get a Mac and then you get a PC. They have certain features, but then you can enhance them. That's kind of what my thinking was more of like you have the basics like
Right.
just right off the bat you might be able to do this, and you might already be like a foot ahead of someone that can't even do that.
Exactly.
So you can add on from
it's
there.
just I believe
and
it's
get
the
better.
intensity you can achieve. I mean, video editing, yes, you can sit down and learn.
That
Will
yeah,
you
that's
naturally see the way I see? Probably not. If you consider yourself not artistic.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the structure of your brain, nerves and
Yeah.
neural connections in your brain.
Yeah, and again, I won't say definitive, but I feel like there's probably if like with how you are, for example, if I decide okay, I'm gonna catch up to Anya, I'm gonna do my best to catch up. I think there will always be that point of that.
I think I'd like to think so too.
Yeah, I think there's always just gonna be something that it's like this is good, but and then you might share like, did you think of this? I'm like, nope, that didn't even cross my mind. Like to even think in that way, because I'm sure even artists that are they're artists.
Oh yeah,
there's gonna be stuff where they say something like, oh, I
identical.
never. That's the cool thing.
The cool thing about art, let's say you sign a project to me and someone else, and we're not looking at each other. We're gonna give you two completely different pieces. That's what's super cool about art.
How often do you do collaborations with people?
Pretty often. Recently, I've been doing a lot of collaborations, but honestly, not my thing.
It's not your thing.
Not my thing, because I get into my most creative and free space when I'm alone. When I have people around me throwing me ideas, obviously it's always a great idea to hear people out, but it distracts me. The best pieces that I've created, even videos, editing, whatever, was when I've been completely alone. Shot alone, sat down to edit alone, asked absolutely no advice, no direction, no opinions. Boom, finished, posted. Great response.
So in your experience when you've done collaborations, is that entire, let's say it's you and one other person, is that entire process you guys, both of you, the whole way, or is there a point where you will at least have like on your own moment where like, okay, now I'm gonna this much.
That's pretty much it. Like each person has a part in it, but again,
you still have to consult and kind of that. So you would prefer, you still do them, but you prefer doing.
I mean, collaboration is more like a job for me.
Okay.
But when I'm doing it on my own, it's more like meditation experience, I want to say.
Do you do that more frequently?
I try.
Try to do it more
I enjoy that way more.
Okay.
And then it comes out more authentic. Not conditioned by opinions.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, because there's no other voice like you
once you
mentioned
hear
outside
an
of yours.
opinion, you already heard it. It's there.
Yeah.
You can't unhear it. And that's a distraction. If you're creating art, purely art for yourself, or but if you're doing something for someone like an artist, obviously you have to consider their opinion. It's a constant war, to be honest. Being an artist is a blessing and a curse at the same time. You are asked to do a certain thing. You have this amazing idea. You're like, oh my God, okay, I have this vision. I can almost see it with my eyes open. You do it, and then no, scratched out. The client doesn't like it. It breaks your heart, but then, you have to make the client happy. And then when you do something you don't like, but the client is happy, you're like, okay, I'm happy because the client is happy. It's just very crazy most of the time.
It's interesting you brought that up. In those moments where you're like, I don't care for this, but it seems like this is what they describe. You show it, and they're like, this is what I want. So as soon as they say this is it, does all of that just goes? So all of that goes away. You're like, okay, fine.
It does. But I mean, some things that I don't like, I'll never show in my portfolio. Out.
So even if they liked it, I didn't like it, so I'm not putting it in.
Definitely, because I'm very picky with I have like a style, I want to say. If it doesn't match my style, it's...
How would you describe your style?
Honestly,
if you can,
if you
think you can.
Well, I have different styles I have a different style in photography, different style in graphics. With graphics, I want to say more vibrant and bold.
Okay.
With photography, simple, super simple, simple, clean, soft, and high contrast. With videography, I want to say super dynamic, fast cuts, beats, flashes of lights, boom, boom, boom. So depending on what I'm doing. So
the videography, amongst those three, is the videography the most recent one you picked up?
The videography is the most recent one and the most passionate one so far.
And that's the one that you essentially taught yourself, right? Because you were saying that person they were going to show it to someone, they're like, and then you just tried it.
I took 2 photography classes, and then videography I had to teach myself. I sat down, I taught myself how to edit, I taught myself how to... I mean, shooting is pretty much like the same thing as photography, but in motion. So I think everything that I do altogether is a good set of skills to have to stay in balance. I want to say even graphic design helped me a lot to in a way to be able to fill the frame in video in a correct way. There is balance, obviously some visual balance. Let's say I'm making a poster, right? It's graphic design. So I'm making this event poster. Everything needs to look balanced, which comes naturally. I can't say making it look balanced is a skill that you have to learn from books. It's I can't explain. I see it. I do it. So that same skill I can apply to videography. Let's say I'm looking at a frame through a camera. I can almost feel the frame the way I feel a piece of artboard on Photoshop or whatever. I take that out, bring a light here, put this light there. It almost looks like I'm doing the same thing on a camera. So I feel like all those skills help each other.
Right. Out. So do you think because of that, maybe it was easier for you to learn it than maybe for someone else?
I feel like graphic design was a very powerful base for me to be able to do the other things.
So since you mentioned, since you've started doing the videography, that's kind of what's right now your passion is lying there.
That's taking most of my attention and most of my thoughts and visions now.
What is it about that you think it is? Is it like tapping some level of creativity in you more so right now?
Yes, it's very hard to explain what it triggers in me, but I'm positive music has some kind of a big impact on me. Because most of the time I don't listen to music just to listen to music. I actually deeply feel music, and in my mind I can separate the layers in the music. I can separate the instruments. And that's probably genetics, because my dad used to play instruments and sing, so I believe that's something I have. And with videography, it's more intensified. The way I cut and match the frames with the beats, it happens naturally.
Interesting.
So yeah, and also video making made me fall in love with music even better and more.
What music do you listen to?
Honestly, any genre, but most of the time, kind of like chill deep house or maybe some hardcore techno deep house mix. That's my go-to. But anything that's good and anything that's good quality, I listen to.
And you listen while you're doing your work?
Yeah. No, I mean, if I'm editing a video, obviously I have to listen to the sound of my video to match the frames. But
Yeah.
I'm designing
Yeah, like outside of
music
that.
all the time. Yeah.
Have you ever tried it without it?
It's boring.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
would you?
Sometimes
It's a
I get
different
so
experience, huh?
into it, I forget that there's no
Right,
music playing,
right.
but eventually I remember that.
Yeah. So you mentioned Disney, because I mentioned I want to come back to it. So even prior to that, so you graduated, 2015.
2015. Yeah.
Disney was what, the third thing you did after you graduated?
I'm sorry. I believe so.
Yeah, because you had. I was
Yes.
looking at your site. You had your things laid
Yes,
out.
the third.
So can you kind
The
of
third.
walk through that process from what you
Definitely.
did first, what the first place, and then the second place? I
Right.
forget the name, and then it was Disney, and then you mentioned the last one you already at.
So while I was still at school, I got an internship at Midnight Oil called Midnight Oil.
Oh, I've heard of them.
It's a big production company. Great
I had
company.
applied for a job there.
No way. Yeah, I applied to after my internship. But I got an internship for 6 weeks. I learned a lot.
Mhm.
There was this really cool guy, Vartan. He was head of production, and he was a Photoshop monster. This guy could have made anything possible in Photoshop. So I learned a lot from this guy. I learned a lot about huge press production, like big posters and billboards they would print. I got to work on Dracula 3D standee of the the movie place where they put those standees. It was a great experience, but internship. I was at school. And then from then I got this job at a food company. It was a like frozen food factory. I got hired as a packaging designer. So I would make the packagings of the foods. That was all right. It paid the bills. And then after I graduated, I got this job at a jewelry company.
Mhm.
Again, a factory that would make jewelry. And I was the in-house packaging and web graphic designer. And then that's where I actually picked the camera to the photography. I just remembered. They would send the jewelries out to photography agencies to get the shots. Each picture cost them $60. I was like, bro, I know how to use a camera. Let me try. So I did try. So I started taking pictures too while I was doing graphic design. And then my shots actually ended up being on Macy's website because they would
Really?
to take some stuff to Macy's stores. And Macy's was very hardcore with the specs. Certain, things had to have certain quality and blah blah sizing, and it passed it. I was like, okay, I guess I'm good. So that job was fun, but it wasn't satisfying. So I left the job. For a month I had no job, and then boom, I get the email from my school department chair. She's like, there's this position at Disney, you should send your resume. I sent my resume. I go for an interview. I have 3 different interviews in the same day with 3 different people, and boom, right on, they were like, congratulations.
That same day?
That same day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
then I was a contractor, not a
Mhm.
full-time contractor,
Yeah.
but not a
So you're not a
not a-
permanent employee, is
not a
what that
permanent
means, yeah.
employee. So that was an amazing experience. I got to see so much that most people will probably never even ever see.
That was a little over a year, right? You did
I
that?
was about 18 months, 16 to 18
Was that what they
months.
was that the designated term when you started it? Like, it's gonna be 18 months?
It was supposed to be 6 months, and then 6 months later they added another 6 months.
And then
But by law they couldn't go over that.
Oh,
So
okay.
they let me go, and then they outsourced the things that we were doing to an agency. So that position doesn't even exist anymore. But it was a great experience. I got to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. A lot of they would make movies, and then us employers would go rate and then judge. And they
Really?
would make the changes based on our comments. So that was pretty interesting. Like shows and cartoons and movies. I got to work on a lot of custom logos for shows. I worked on a lot of Disney Now app graphics. Even now, when I go on that app, my graphics are still up. It was cool, but again, not satisfying. Way too corporate, way too stuck, way too scheduled. For an artist, it's like hell.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna
like being in prison. But again, I can't say I did have an amazing time. Again, good connections. Even until now, I have friends from Disney. And then after Disney for 10 months, I was just traveling, having the time of my life. And then I was like, okay, time for a job again. And that's when I applied for this music company. And this was when I was barely starting to make videos. I was barely in photography. So I go for an interview. I get the offer. I take the job. a month in, boom, they sent me to my first event. I went to, what event did I shoot? Weenie Roast.
Oh,
Weenie
that's
Roast. It's like
the
a
K Rock or
fest.
something. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, K Rock, AMP, Jack FM, The Wave, Channel Q, K Earth 101. They're all the company stations. And then that was K Rock. That was my first show. That's when I got to shoot Snoop Dogg. And then from then on, events, this event, that event, small events, big events. And then it was a lot. I was doing graphic design. I was shooting in the studio sometimes. I would edit some videos. I would make some motion graphics, which I'm not really an expert of. So, and then Corona arrived. I got laid off. And then boom, I was like, uh-oh. And then guess what I did? I got my own space now.
Like your own
Now I
actual.
got my own office. I'm starting my own thing right now.
Awesome.
Obviously, right now it's in the process of prepping
Of course.
stuff, trying to understand what exactly I'm gonna do. Meantime, I shot my first music videos, which I finished today. So to be honest, I'm not gonna say one thing. I'm many things, trying to do many things. It's very hard to choose one thing because I love doing all of those things. So we'll see where life takes me at this point.
Do you think had COVID not occurred, so if you were still at the entertainment place,
I believe so. That's why I'm grateful for what happened because for over 2 years, I have notebooks. I tend to write things down. I tend to write my wishes down. And every like 90% of things I wrote down, even as a kid, everything happens. I believe in manifesting with thoughts, with attention, with focus, with really deep desire.
you and Armand will connect on that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, that works. I
Yeah.
believe in the magic of the universe. 100%. Everything that I have, I cannot say I achieved it because I work hard. No, I'm not really a workaholic. I'm not.
You balance it out.
I balance it out. I can't be doing the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
like a nerd and be so focused on work. I make sure I have fun too. But I have very powerful belief that I will get what I want to get because faith.
Mhm.
So 6 months before I got laid off, I wrote in my notebook, I wrote down, I numbered things. Consistent, let me say it word by word. Consistent, effortless money. That's what I asked for. Second was start my own business, in parentheses, office space. And then third one was shoot more celebs and a music video. Boom. Boom. Like everything is happening. I
Yeah.
got laid off. If I didn't get laid off, I would probably still kind of like lag and find excuses not to because it's scary.
Of course.
I have no clue about business. I'm barely starting to learn business, barely reading any business books. I just got this very great offer for the space. It's in a great area, Studio City, right across Universal Studios. I was like, I cannot not
That's
take
prime
this
time.
place.
Yeah,
It's
prime
like
time spot.
bingo. This is my time.
So so if COVID hadn't occurred, you still would have done this. Just this
It would take-
expedited the process.
Yeah. And I would have probably not got this opportunity to get a studio in such a good place because the design studio has to be in a nice area. Come on. All the good studios are in very good areas. Either Burbank, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Santa Monica, Culver City. So bingo. Right across from Universal Studios where I dream to work at. Now I see them from my window.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, life is good.
If that happened, now I'm curious because you mentioned the Disney thing was a little too corporate. If an opportunity with Universal presented itself where you could still do your own thing, like you don't have to worry about shutting it down. If something like that presented itself with them, this is hypothetical, of course. But given what you saw with Disney, it seemed too corporate. Do you still think that's something you would want to do?
I would do it only if I got the chance to do it not in-house, as a freelancer on my own.
Okay.
In my own location. I would bring the job, do it in my office. I would not take a full-time corporate job again. I'd like to say
because it makes sense to me because artists, the stereotype, and I won't pretend I know a bunch because I don't know a bunch, but the stereotype that I always hear is they're more obviously free thinking, right? Because you kind of have to be to access.
And that's a
some of the
challenge in
things.
life too, especially being a woman. It's challenging, especially when it comes to a person in life.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yeah. So I would think, given that, because a corporate environment, not always, but again, the stereotype with that is a little more, suited up, a little more constricted.
There's always that battle.
Yeah.
Always that battle.
So I kind of wonder, because I wonder now, because I hadn't really thought of it before, how you have an art if you have like a division like that of art, how does it usually work? Like, I'm curious, turnover wise, like, do they retain the people well easily, or at certain point are they like, oh, I got to get out of here? Like, I feel like I'm too confined. I can't think outside the box. They just want me to do this, and I want to go out
Yeah,
here.
that's pretty much your experience. That's why I knew I was not going to take it for too long. But at the same time, why I stayed and what was making me feel okay with what I was feeling and being patient, because I learned a lot of kitchen stuff,
Hmm.
like internal stuff. I learned professionalism. I learned professional
Hmm.
language. So I knew I was going to need the skills that I was learning about corporate world. I'm not saying I'm going to build a corporation, but if you are planning to own a business, build a business, you have to know a certain behavior, way of talking.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I'm grateful for all those tough corporate years I've had. I mean, God forbid if anything happens and I'm forced to go back, I will. Thank God I have the experience
Exactly.
to be able to go back. But it's a challenge, being so free spirited as an artist and liking to take your time with things, and then being under pressure of corporate world. You have to do this has to be like that has to be like that, the clients want it like this, blah 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 blah. It's like, god damn it, just give me some space.
Was that a sentiment that was shared by your coworkers, the ones that
Yeah, it's a
everyone's like
it's
that,
an
huh?
artist thing. So I believe the artists who don't risk to leave the corporate side and do their own thing, they're just gonna die. They're gonna die as precious seeds who never bloom.
Do you think there's something corporations can do to change that? Is there a way
I
you can make a
believe so.
corporation more open to
I
artists
think
like that?
corporations need to give the freedom of the artist to feel free.
And that means come and go as you please,
Come
or
and go
take
as
your
you
work where
please.
you
If you want
want
to
it.
come work at night, come work at night. If you want to go work from home, go work from home. If you want to go work from the beach, go work from the beach.
Mhm.
I think artists need more freedom. At least sense of
Yeah,
freedom.
yeah, that makes sense. But because I come from corporate background, so I'm running my mind as if
Hmm.
I'm them. I think I would be able to make that work as long as I see the work's being done, right? I
There you
think
go. Yeah,
generally,
and it
right?
comes down to you if you're responsible. If you say yes, I'm gonna finish it by Tuesday,
Hmm.
and if you finish it by Tuesday from Jamaica, you're still gonna have your job.
How are artists with deadline typically in your experience?
Depending on a person.
In general, what would you say? Pretty punctual or kind of?
Pretty punctual, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the ones that have the good positions are pretty, obviously. You
right.
can't mess up and still be on top of the world. So
Yeah, which makes sense. Okay, so that's been your journey throughout this whole thing. What was the most or some of the most difficult times? You kind of referenced some of them, but maybe some that maybe you haven't mentioned. You mentioned you moved here when you were
hmm
16. Was that maybe one
hmm
of them? What was like a critical time
that's a
where
very
you're
good
like, oh,
question. A very good clip. My
where you have to get
favorite question.
introspective?
So the biggest challenge that I had in life had nothing to do with my career. The challenge in life was the transition, from thinking that you were a mature person and you have everything figured out, going from there to the place where you realize you don't know anything, and to a place where you're starting to get to know life.
When was that?
And
Do you remember?
that was the I mean, I'm still in the process of figuring things out,
Well, the
but
first
the
moment when you're
kick
like,
was at the age of 23,
hmm,
22, 23. One book, I keep talking about this. Everyone who knows me, they know that this book messed me up. I read this book called Intimacy by Osho. Osho is an Indian guru who can get really into your brain. So I read this book, I closed this book, I was like, shit. Everything that I knew about myself, about life, about everything is a trash.
so this book is what triggered this,
Yeah,
what
this
you're
book is
describing.
about intimacy of you with yourself.
Hmm.
So that's when I realized how much like socially conditioned I am, especially coming from a conservative culture. Some things we can't do, some things we can't do. There's a lot of gossip, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of rules and guidelines, how to be, how to do, what to say, what not to say. And I was like, shit. Now I have to unlearn all these things and learn the things that I want to learn. I'm I'm still in that process, but that was the craziest. Those years were the craziest years. Super stressful, kind of unknown, but those crazy times triggered my artistic skills better. I started seeing depth and deeper. I developed a deeper connection, with art,
Mm.
storytelling. I got interested into dark visual art. So if you I'll send you the link to my website so you'll see my other artistic photography. There is a very dark sense of emotion in my artistic shots. So, interestingly enough, I got that style in art. While I was going through my dark times, my art got super dark too.
Yeah, before you mentioned it, I was gonna ask if the after reading that, if that enhanced your art in any way. So what do you
Absolutely.
so do you think it is do you think what it was the content you read because you said, "Okay, now I have to unlearn." So you think in the process of unlearning that, you were able to pick up other things that maybe you weren't seeing because of how you were conditioned?
Definitely, because what change does to you, it brings more awareness.
Mm,
So I could have a conversation with a person, and that conversation I would feel so deeply, and I was able to listen so deeply that I could actually get into this person's emotion, and someone's emotion could trigger an idea or a vision in me, and I would like execute, like do pictures with that thought in my head, and then I had this beautiful experience with my models too. The girls that I would choose to shoot, I would invite them over to I had a small studio in my home, and then I would have conversations with them. And I love listening to people. I love stories, so I would listen to their story, and it was so interesting how their own stories kind of became the concepts of their own photographs. Like they could almost put the emotion of that story into their poses and the mood they would give to the set. So that was a very beautiful
mm.
experience with photography.
Yeah, that's so with that book, do you think that's a book that everyone should read? Would you recommend, or is it like a
Honestly,
certain type of certain people should read? What do you think? Based on when you read it,
look,
obviously it helped you.
if you are see, the thing is, the book can either change your life, or you can just read it and be like,
Whatever. Yeah,
what, like,
dismissive.
what the f,
Yeah.
close it and throw it away. So again, depends on the
How'd you
person.
stumble
But
upon the book?
a friend of mine gave me the book.
Hmm.
So I was talking about one day I was talking about meditating. I was
Hmm.
like, dude, I feel like I need to meditate more. I'm so stressed, blah, 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 blah. It was like, what do you know about meditations? I was like, well, I know that, meditation calms you down and brings your brain to this wavelength, blah, blah, all these things that I read off the internet. And then he was like, huh, interesting. Okay, yeah, you open your one eye, time to open your other eye. And he gives me this book. And obviously, the book is not about sitting down and meditating. It's about the way you program your brain to look at life situations, yourself, your relationships with yourself, with other people. So it completely changed my reality, the way I look at people, the way I look at situations. I completely got rid of the habit of judging other people or
Hmm.
situations. So I think that was not the only book I read. That was the beginning of
Oh, okay.
uh, 40 other books that came after. I probably read 10 books from the same guy, and then I got into some other books. Uh, I don't like to use the word spirituality because that is a very unrealistic word to me, but I would say a combination of human psychology and philosophy and way of living. Combination of all those things that I would really be interested in for the longest time until now.
You mentioned because we come from the same background culturally, obviously. You mentioned the conservative nature of it, which it is. So, and you said you were conditioned that way, so then you had to uncondition it. In that process of unconditioning, did that cause any strife? Did that cause any problems with
It
people
caused a
close to you?
lot of problems. I got in a lot of trouble. I would do things against. So it's like I almost went out on a war with myself.
Hmm.
Everything that I was taught was wrong and bad. I was like, let's find out why. So I would just, do things that I usually wouldn't do. Sometimes it would come out as a great experience. I was like, I'm so glad I did. I can't believe I thought this was a bad thing or wrong thing to do. But then sometimes I would do things and I'd be like, okay, I see why you're not supposed to do this, hang out with a certain type of people, or go here, go there, say this, say that, do this, do that. Little things, big things, depends. A
Yeah.
lot happened. Like I
Yeah.
can't really bring one example
Yeah.
right now, but it was definitely a tough transition. It's like losing your identity and then trying to build one or find one again.
Yeah, it's something that I think people deal with too late because they don't
Too
realize it,
late.
right?
Yeah.
But like before you read that, did you ever feel like did you feel
Oh,
comfortable with yourself? Did you think you knew yourself?
I thought I was set. I was so smart. I was so
Hmm.
intelligent. I was like this perfect human.
Yeah.
Literally, I knew I was a mess. I was such a mess.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the things you did proved a great experience to some you did. You're like, well, this is why you don't do that. I think because before, like I've been in situations where I'll be like, yeah, don't do that.
Hmm.
It's obviously that's something that's not going to be good for you. And then what I learned over time was you saying it to the person doesn't mean
It's
anything
not gonna.
because that
It doesn't mean
person
anything.
sometimes it's like it's the very simplest way I can put it is like you can tell a kid that's hot, don't touch it, and then they go like this, like you're right, that is hot, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna touch it.
Hmm.
But until they do that,
Hmm.
they're not gonna fully get this is
Exactly.
why you don't
And
do it.
we tend to give everyone advice.
Yeah,
We humans like to, tell other people what to do, what not to do without realizing, let this person find out. Especially parents, some parents, especially conservative cultures, when they tell their kids you can't do this, you can't do that. And especially when they don't give the right reasoning why they shouldn't do that. You can't do that because I said so. That's how you ruin a human being. What do you mean?
yeah,
Why can't this little person do this, or that?
yeah,
At least give the reason why.
yeah, and that's where the conditioning starts.
And then that's when the relationship between a parent and a kid dies. Because what the kid has to do from now on, lie. Because anything he or she asks the mom or dad, can't do it. Why? Because they said so.
Yeah,
So
it's a very slippery slope from there. And
very.
what I've realized because I was that way too, where I was like this that whatever, and I
Mhm.
would same reason same reasoning where sometimes there was no reason. It's like no, that's how I like it.
Mhm.
And then what you end up realizing is that you don't realize what what you think is like okay they got it, and then or like I'm helping this kid or whoever it is in a positive way because they stopped doing it. And then what you don't realize behind the scenes is they're like the amount of resentment that's being built
Exactly.
and the amount of questioning. There's all that's left is one little push, and then it's gonna blow up and
Boom.
it's gonna go set off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because ultimately, what has to happen is right or wrong. Certain things, obviously, not every single bad thing I'm saying, but there's certain bads that we've been told are bad that experience it yourself to find out that it's bad, or
Mhm.
experience it and be like
Mhm.
maybe in this
Obviously,
capacity
some
thing.
things are
Of
common
course,
sense. We're not talking about
yeah,
dumb
yeah,
stuff
of
like
course,
jumping off a cliff, but
yeah. But I think that's what it boils down to is like you just gotta let people ultimately figure some things out on
exactly.
their own, and then they might end up agreeing with you. They might end up disagreeing with you. You won't.
Mhm.
They have to find the realization themselves so that it's a genuine thing, so that then they can be at peace with it. It's like okay, that's actually what it is. Because then what ends
Absolutely.
up happening is kind of where you read this thing and you're like, oh my goodness, everything I knew was not what it
Exactly.
was.
It's such a shocking experience and sad. It's very sad. It's like almost the reality that you knew that was set for you collapses. You are nowhere, you are nothing, you are no one.
Hmm.
What do we do?
And for that amount of time too, you
Yeah.
said you were 22,
I was
23.
23.
So that's a majority of your life. You were more or less in one mindset. Obviously, you
Right.
change growing through that, but there's like a certain thing that's kind of maintained. And then you reach that. This one thing completely flips it the other way around, and now you're whatever
Mm-hmm.
5, 6, 7-ish years
Mm-hmm.
since you're essentially like rehabilitating that
Right.
and reconditioning and training it.
Right.
So it's a process and a
Yeah.
journey.
It's like you almost start going to the extremes of the thing, the complete opposite of what you've been like. You start doing the complete opposite, and then boom, you're off balance. For the
Yeah,
longest time, I was very off balance. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Until slowly and slowly, you're like, okay, let's take this step by step. Let's realize what we're doing. So that was the biggest challenge of my life. That was the biggest challenge. I mean, obviously, we still grow. I believe that you should always grow. There are so many stubborn people that they think they got it all figured out. They're right. They know what they want. They know what to do, but you never really 100% know.
yeah.
Mm,
And what
yeah.
we see in general, and that's where that saying "can't teach an old dog new tricks," right? Because there's a
Mhm.
certain point where people are like not even that they're necessarily thinking I know everything, but they're like I don't know everything, but I also don't care to know anything else. Whatever,
Yeah,
this
I
is
mean,
what I know,
nothing
and
wrong
I'm gonna
with
leave it
that.
there.
Some people
Yeah,
love that comfort
yeah,
zone. I personally get bored with too much comfort, with too much of the sameness. There has to always something new has to always happen.
yeah. I do think part of that thinking, it makes sense why that helped your art. Now that the more I've been
Mhm.
processing what you said as we're discussing, because again, when you're in a profession, or not even if you just a passion, it's a profession for you too,
Mhm.
but a passion in general that requires you to really push the bounds of your mind to find different things.
D-
It's inevitable
Absolutely. And
that
then it gives you the ability to think and create more abstract in a way as
hmm,
an artist. You have kind of like philosophical view on art too. So you can create something really weird, but you can give it such a beautiful story that it makes sense. Or you don't, and each person understands your art their own way. It's not like just a beautiful picture of a flower.
right.
You know, you go beyond that. Or just a pretty portrait of a pretty woman. You go beyond that. You show the imperfections. You show it in a weird way, in a dark light, in a weird light, in a weird setting. I shot this video less than a year ago. It's still in the process making it. It's gonna come out. I wrote this very abstract poem about creation, man and a woman, and I decided to shoot a video on this poem. So it's about Adam and Eve, let's say, and then my Eve in the video is a pregnant woman. She's actually 8 months pregnant, and in the video I have two men representing Adam. It's this weird video. It's called art. So this is my first like kind of like high contrast and absurd piece that I have so far. It's not out, but I'm very curious to see the reaction of the audience. Planning on doing an art show, and this video would possibly be the opening of the show. So that has been one of the pieces that I created inspired by my, complicated and hard days and experiences.
Yeah, I saw the picture of the lady. There was a picture on one of, no, I don't think it's your page. It was, you have another
The
page,
other,
right?
yes, that
It's on
was from
there?
that video shoot.
Okay, yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
the
That was,
pregnant, like
yeah.
blurry.
Yeah, because I saw that, I'm like, I wonder what this is.
Yeah,
And
that
now,
the whole video has that vibe, dark,
hmm.
super dark, very dark video.
As an artist, when you obviously when you create something, you have something in mind. This is what
Mm-hmm.
it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you present it to a person, people, a group, whatever, for you, when you hear different people taking away different things from it,
Mm-hmm.
is there a point where you're like, no, where did you even get that from? Or is it generally like, oh, that's interesting? Or
No,
do you want them
usually
to see what you
doesn't.
do?
No, it doesn't really matter. But once somebody sees it, I'm like, "Oh, okay, you know what's up." But it doesn't necessarily, like, people don't necessarily have to see what I see, as long as it gets appreciated. Because sometimes, I mean, we all artists, every artist has kind of like an artistic ego,
Hmm.
small, not big, but you want your art to be appreciated. So it's a challenge. Some people don't understand, some people don't find it beautiful. Some, people like to see pretty things, pretty face, especially now, social media. Everybody wants to see pretty, bright, colorful, nice skin.
Hmm.
So when you create something imperfect, most people probably don't even want to see it.
Hmm.
They don't see it as art. But that's the life of an artist.
Is that something that, since you approach it that way, do you ever have any, maybe not anymore, but initially when you started putting out things like that, did you ever have any skepticism or concern that I don't know how many people will be receptive to something like this?
Not really. I literally jumped into photography with absolutely no expectations.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I was like, I'm going to do it because I want to do it. But then a lot of people would give me, a lot of nice comments. And then that built my confidence to do photography.
There's a lot of what you have with your all the like the freelance, and now what you're establishing your business and all of that that you've had so far, your jobs. Has that been through like word of mouth? Like you did something for one person and they
Almost
went,
on 100% of it. I
hmm,
never did any marketing. I never spread the word myself. It's been a long time I've been in the graphics part. Even when I was at school, from 2012, 13, I've been doing a lot of freelance, especially for like small business owners. So a lot of people know me as the logo design. They think I'm a logo designer, the logo designer girl. So I do mostly logos for some odd reason, but obviously I can do more things. And then I do work with some beauty brands too. I do a lot of beauty packagings and some product photography.
Hmm.
But yeah, mostly word of mouth. I never did any marketing, but I should now that I have a business.
Yeah, you might reach a point now that you have your own shop
Right,
where
right,
like
right.
where or you might not, that where you might be thinking, okay, now I want to push this more, or one of these
Right.
things
I
that you
mean,
end up putting out soon ends up going off. That you're like, oh,
right.
I don't need to.
It's just right now I can't really focus what kind of a structure to come up with as far as like business functioning. So as soon as I have that figured out, I can probably think about marketing. But as of right now, I think I'm chilling.
Are you doing it entirely on your own, or do you have any people that you bounce ideas off of?
No, just me, myself, and I. I mean, my very good friend Tico, who shot the snake
Mhm.
picture. We're kind of like partners, so we do work on a lot of projects together.
Oh, okay.
I get a client, he helps me out, or he gets a client, I'll help him out. Even with the music video shoot, he helped me out with cameras because I'm a small female. Sometimes things are heavy. I need some help with the camera, but I prefer creating on my own because the things I see, other artists could be super talented, but the vision that I have could be very different
Mm.
from a vision of this other artist that I'm supposedly collaborating with, and that's a distraction for me.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, like when you were mentioning earlier about that, I can see the conflicts of the direction on that
Hmm.
eventually getting like,
Yeah.
okay, let's stop.
And I personally not a big fan of conflicts, so I prefer working 10 extra hours, having cool relationships with everyone, than getting something done fast and not my way and have conflicts. So I tend not to burn any bridges.
Which is both professionally
Even
and
with my
personally a
clients,
good
I
idea.
have great relationships with all my clients. I mean, me being here today is because I keep good relationships. Me and Armin are cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I went because he had mentioned, I forgot which logo you did for him initially.
I did the biofarm. Biofarm.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not done yet.
Yeah.
The process.
Yeah, so he was. That's how I first became aware of you, because he was doing that, and I was trying to figure out what exactly I was gonna do with mine, and then so he showed me whatever we talked, and then whatever day goes on, and then I forgot who brought up, whether it was me or him, but he or I, someone, one of us mentioned like,
Setup, because I did set. I don't know.
I
Have
know
you seen
Setup, yeah.
Setup logos? Setup's logo.
No, I
did
haven't
his
actually.
Logo. His DJ logo.
Yeah, he mentioned that he Setup referred.
Right,
Yes,
right,
there you go
right.
again.
I
with
think I met
the
Armin at the office in Burbank.
Oh, probably,
That's
yeah.
how I know Armin.
But once he showed me, and then one of us, I think maybe him, suggested that maybe I could talk with you on this. I was like, yeah, why not? And then because I figured, again, because I don't have any understanding of
Mhm.
anything on that art side,
Mhm.
both technically and really,
Mhm.
I don't know that many. I don't think I know anyone that does it. If I do, sorry for slighting you. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I was like, yeah, let's see, to see how the mind works of someone in that space. So now I think I have a much better understanding now. So thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Thank you for
ahead.
hiring me to design you guys' logo.
Of course, and I know they've probably already just thinking about the stuff you suggested before we started
Yeah,
rolling.
we'll have a conversation
Yeah.
after.
So go ahead, plug your socials and all that. I'll put the links in the thing too, but go ahead, let us know where people can find you.
Absolutely. So, I mostly use my personal IG, which is at Ani_Agassi. It's ANI_AGASSI. Or for my art, you can go on my website, aniagassi.com. And if you have any questions, you can email at ani@agassigraphics.com.
Perfect.
Thank you guys.
We'll put all of that down there anyway. Thanks again, Ani.
Of course. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll talk right now about their other stuff.
Cool. Thank you. This was fun.
It was.